Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater SoundCheck. This time out, the second generation of one of the most popular families of USB audio interfaces. Let's get started. Today we're checking out the second generation of Scarlett audio interfaces from Focusrite. The Scarlett family of USB audio interfaces are some of the most popular in the world. Now Focusrite has improved the Scarlett family with improved audio specs, even lower latency, and easier workflow. Today we have two of the second generation Scarlett audio interfaces with us. This is the 2i2, which is a 2-input, 2-output audio interface. On the bottom, we have the 18i20, which is the flagship of the family. The second generation Scarlett audio interfaces all have some common features. For example, they all have solid metal housings. They all feature the same Scarlett microphone preamps, and those have even better audio specs in the second generation. They all feature low latency monitoring capabilities, whether implemented in the front panel, like on the 2i2 here, or using an accompanying computer app, as with the 18i20. Taking a look at the front panel, we begin with two input channels. Now, these are on Combi XLR and 1/4-inch jacks. They support line level, instrument level, and microphone level signals. Each of those has switchable 48-volt phantom power as well. The direct monitor switch allows us to set up latency-free monitoring right on the interface. The monitor control controls our monitor output, and then of course we have a headphone output with its own volume control. On the back panel, things are very simple. We have a connection for USB and two line outputs. Now the 2i2 is bus powered, which means it runs right off the computer. You don't need a separate power supply for it, so it's very nice for portable applications. If you're looking for a compact, super easy to use, great sounding little audio interface, the 2i2 is a great choice. Throw it in your backpack, it's bus powered from your computer, plug it in, and you're ready to go. The 18i20 is the flagship of the Scarlett second generation USB audio interfaces. It greatly expands the amount of I/O that's available. The 18i20 features 8 analog input channels, each with a preamp that can accept line level or microphone level signals. Inputs 1 and 2 can also accept instrument level signals. Beginning on the left of the front panel, we have our first two inputs, again on XLR 1/4-inch combi jacks for line, instrument, or microphone level signals. We can switch the 8 channels of 48-volt phantom power on and off in groups of 4, 1 through 4, or 5 through 8. As I mentioned, inputs 1 and 2 have instrument, line, and mic level support, and there's also a pad available on those two channels. Next we have gain controls for channels 3 through 8. The LED meters in the center of the front panel indicate our input levels. And we also have monitor output level control with both dim and mute functions. We have two independent headphone outputs, each with their own volume control. Beginning on the left of the back panel, we have stereo SpeedIF digital in and out, MIDI I/O, USB input, and a word clock connection. Next up, we have optical connections for 8 channels of optical in and out. Our stereo monitor outputs are next on the back panel, and then we have 8 analog outputs as well. Rounding out the back channels are the remainder of our inputs for mic or line level signals. As I mentioned, with the 2i2, direct monitoring or latency-free monitoring is switched right on the front panel. Because the 18i20 offers so many more inputs and outputs, we use an app to control latency-free routing as well as to create monitor mixes. The Focusrite Control app allows us to set the sample rate anywhere up to 192 kilohertz. We can select the clock source, internal, SpeedIF digital, or ADAT digital. And we can also set what the monitor control is governing, whether it's outputs 1 and 2, which is a default, all the outputs, or none of the outputs. Switching over to the mixing and routing page, this is where we can set up our latency-free monitoring. We can control our monitor outputs here with mute, dim, and stereo or mono selection. We can also control the status of our other outputs, line outputs 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, or by scrolling down 9 and 10, SpeedIF, and the 8 ADAT outputs. At the bottom, we can set the level of the signal returning from our DAW. This allows us to track along with that DAW with no latency. Here in the upper center are our input controls. We can set them up for mute, for solo, and set up our latency-free monitoring as well. We can pan those, and they can be routed here, so we can display whichever inputs or outputs we want to display. So we could turn on just 1 and 2, or we could set those up as a stereo pair, add 3 and 4, and we can also set up our digital inputs if we like. This allows us to create a mix that we can feed to our headphones or any of the outputs for latency-free monitoring purposes. As I mentioned, the latency on these audio interfaces is extremely low. Basically, you can plug them into your DAW and just start working without worrying about latency at all. The audio pads have also been greatly improved. The microphone preamps are clean, transparent, and you'll hear those in just a minute. The workflow with the second generation Scarletts is even easier than the original Scarletts. The front panels are clean, they're easy to use, the app is easy to use with the larger interfaces. They really are a pleasure to work with. To give you an idea of the improved quality of the microphone preamps in the second generation Scarletts, we've got Sweetwater's Don Carr here with his acoustic guitar. We'll set up a pair of Audio-Technica 5045 microphones, route them straight into the 2i2, and record straight into Pro Tools. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the second generation Scarlett audio interfaces from Focusrite. These USB interfaces are so easy to use, just plug them in and get to work, and they sound incredible. Whether you want a portable unit or you need to have an interface that will serve as a centerpiece for a large studio, there's something in the Scarlett line that can work for you. Be sure and check them out. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater SoundCheck. I'm Mitch Gallagher.